All right, good morning. Thank you so much, panelists, for joining us today for our 6th Career Ed Talk. So this is our 6th virtual panel that we've been having through this series. Today's topic is energy, and we have some professionals here that work in the energy field. Before I introduce them, I am going to go ahead and share this infographic on the energy cluster for our students to see kind of what's happening in Florida and in education right now. In high school programs in the energy field, there are 463 enrollments and 519 in middle school programs. The top high school programs across Florida are energy technician, energy generation technician, and solar energy technology. And thankfully, we have kind of that entire range in all of our panelists today. The top certification that's earned by students is the Nurser Electrical Level 1. And then you can see post-secondary programs. So this is after high school, electrical line service and repair, and solar, photovoltaic system design, installation, and maintenance. And we do have a solar professional with us as well. So he'll be able to answer some questions about that. Here is a sample of local articulation pathway to college. So you would go through an energy technician program that can articulate three credits into an electrical distribution technology and associate's degree. So that is the information from the Florida Department of Ed. I'll stop sharing my screen now, and we're going to turn it over to our panelists. So first, I would like to introduce Gary Richardson. He is the manager of system operations at LCEC. We also have Alan Ruth. He is the manager of operations business support at LCEC. And then we have Rick Vasky, who is a solar energy professional, and he right now is a sales manager for UMA Solar. So we will go ahead and get started with, let's start with Gary. Gary, can you share a little bit about what you do on a day-to-day basis, how you got into this career field, maybe what degrees, certifications you have, where you went to college? Just tell us a little bit about yourself.
I can. Started my career with Lee County Co-op 32 years ago. Hired in as a meter reader, of all entry-level position, and it evolved into an apprenticeship as a lineman, where I stayed for about 10 years and moved over into substation construction and maintenance. I enjoyed that for a while. Moved on to project management, stepped up into a supervision position, and now I'm a manager of systems operations, as you mentioned. All of my training was gathered right here at Lee County Electric Co-op. I came in with a high school diploma. I went through 2 apprenticeships. That's 2 4-year apprenticeships, so 8 years of training to get me to where I'm at today. My day generally starts at 5 o'clock in the morning. My first report goes out at 5:10. And that's a weekday report. I do get a little break on the weekends every once in a while. Followed up with follow-up on emails. Of course, in a company our size, there's a lot of emails that roll around. Sometimes it's a couple hours in the morning, get everything cleaned up from the day before that didn't get addressed, get everything filed away, and start over again, receiving emails and sorting through them as they come in. 10 more meetings than I'd like to. They're not all internal meetings. I also have some external meetings I attend with the FRCC, which is the Florida Reliability Coordinating Council. It's a government-sponsored group, I should say. The way the electricity in Florida works is we generate in Florida and we also buy for peak outside of Florida. Florida manages Florida. So whenever the loads get higher, they're being watched by the FRCC. Whenever they determine we're not generating enough power in the state, we'll call on Georgia, Alabama to send us a little extra electric on the grid, and we pick it up. So that makes some pretty interesting meetings that I get to attend. Typically, I'm in about 2 a week, and they vary from 45 minutes to we got one that's about 7 hours once a month. So that keeps me busy for the most part of the day.
Awesome. Well, thank you. Next, let's go to Alan. Can you tell us kind of your background, what type of training you had, if it was something that you did right out of high school, if you needed to go to college, and then what a typical day looks like for you?
Sure. As Kelly mentioned, my name's Alan Ruth. I've been with LCEC for 35 years. The one thing Gary failed to mention is that he and I are both graduates of North Fort Myers High School. So that many years ago, and right out of high school, you know, we were fortunate and I was able to come to work for Lee County Co-op. My best friend growing up, his father was a lineman for Florida Power and Light. And I was always interested in the business and the work. So that's what kind of moved me in the direction of this career path. Similar to Gary, all my training has been at Lee County Co-op. We do have a state certified apprenticeship program. We have it for the line department, the meter department, and also the substation electrician. Gary had mentioned he went through the lineman and the substation apprenticeships. I went through the lineman apprenticeship and worked in that role for probably about 10 years. And then I went into management. So I went into supervision probably 23 years ago. And you wind up working your way through all the various supervisory roles. So for a while you're over a district, you know, which my area was East Cape Coral and Sanibel. Was responsible for scheduling of all the work, the maintenance activities and the things that went on. And then moved on to various different roles and took on additional responsibilities. I spent probably the last 12 years as the manager of construction and maintenance. That role managed all the construction and maintenance activities on the distribution and transmission systems. The only thing that I didn't do was the substation area, and that's where Gary was at. He was working over in the substation side. So then here recently I moved into operations business support, which is the support arm of the electrical operations division within Lee County Co-op. And basically it manages the T&D budget. We've got, you know, 2 different types of budgets at Lee County Co-op. You got, well, actually 3. You got the capital budget, which is the T&D, which stands for transmission and distribution. And then you have the O&M budgets and then the general plant. So we manage all the activities that are associated with the budget. We're also responsible for the training that has not only the 3 apprentice disciplines in it, but it also has other training because we have junior designers. There's opportunities for that where you come in and they're the folks that don't work on the lines, but they actually design the jobs that go out to the field. There's a lot of other roles that are individual contributors. We have within the division, most of the managers are either electrical engineers or chemical engineers. Our division director is a chemical engineer. And so there's a lot of different disciplines, a lot of different ways and career paths that you can start out. You know, you can come in direct with a degree as a individual contributor and then work your way into management if you so desire, or you can come in through the trade side and get the training, do the field activities. Not everybody that goes into the trade side then goes into management, but there is, you know, a number of us that have taken that career path. So Lee County Co-op is an excellent organization. There's tremendous opportunities if people want to take advantage of them.
Awesome, thank you. Very, very good information that you don't necessarily have to have a college degree to do what these men do. You can come in right after high school and they will train you and give you, like Gary said, 8 years of apprenticeship opportunities to get that training and still have the opportunity to move up into management. So thank you for pointing out those different paths for us. Rick, your turn. Can you tell us what your background is, what type of training you have, and how you got into this field and what a normal day looks like for you?
Yeah. Well, for 15 years right out of high school, I never went to college, and I spent 15 years of my life on the radio. And I was broadcast on broadcast radio in 16 different cities. And, you know, then these things came along and radio isn't what radio used to be anymore. So I had to look forward into the future to see what was coming next. And living in the Sunshine State, I believed that and this was already 12 years ago, I believed that solar was going to be huge in this state. I saw the impact that it made on California, and I knew that it was going to be changing and coming. So 12 years ago, I dived into my own levels of education and taught myself everything that I could find out about electrical connections, how to wire things together, and followed in the path of people that have been veterans in doing this. And for a long time, there are islands and there are parts of Florida that if the grid goes down or there's a hurricane that comes, they might not be serviceable. So a long time ago, and I say a long time ago, but 10 years ago, solar panels may have only been 150 watts and connected to golf cart batteries, but it kept people's lights on, it kept the refrigerators on, and it kept things going after a hurricane. Now the panels are almost 400 watts. So, and now it's all controlled on your cell phone, and it all can be stored into a battery that goes into those cool Tesla cars that you see on the road. And the cost of it has gone down by almost 40%. So panels used to come from California and be shipped in. Now they're manufactured in the US. They're 400 watts. They used to cost $400. Now they cost $170. So it all got more affordable. The attachments of how it gets attached to your roof has become more secure. The engineering has stepped up. The way we monitor it has stepped up. The way we sell it back to the power company has stepped up. So the industry has changed, and it's we see the rise in actual job opportunities increasing every year. It's been a 30% rise in actual career opportunities. There has been, when I started 10 years ago, there were 180 solar licenses in the state of Florida, and that was mainly just using the power of the sun to heat swimming pools. That's what solar meant in Florida for a very long time. You see them all over the place. They're black panels that are up on a roof. They're 12 foot long by 4 foot wide. They take the pool water out of your pool. They put it up on your roof. Your roof is hot. It puts it back down into your pool. And that was solar for a long time in Florida, heating swimming pools. And so the 180 solar licenses for a long time were a majority of people that were just plumbers and roofers that were heating swimming pools. Now there's over 480 solar licenses in the state of Florida. And some of these companies have, up to 60 and 70 employees and 40 trucks on the road, and solar electric is actually exploding. Then the race has been on with lithium ion and lithium phosphate to store the energy that's created by the sun. And what happens when, there's a power outage after a hurricane, and how can we be living a little smarter based on the consuming, because we are consuming a lot of energy in our home. And the more we actually monitor what we're actually consuming, the smarter we might live, or the more energy efficient we might live. So now I'm on to a whole different role, because I was the director of operations at Advanced Solar and installed probably 4,000 solar systems for 8 years there. And now I'm the national sales manager for a solar manufacturer. And we sell directly nationwide to home builders so that the solar goes onto the house at the time of new construction. And now home builders are actually getting into this industry. So whether you're looking to get into new construction and build new homes, having that understanding of solar is going to become more of a valuable asset for home builders. Whether you want to get into the electrical trade and understand how to wire panels and hook up inverters that take DC current and move it to AC usable current, or whether you want to just be the one that sits and designs the system for truss alignments or load calculations on how much it's going to consume against what it's going to produce. Or if you just want to be the person that understands the actual federal tax credits and how the return on investment of solar works, because it is a marathon, it's not a sprint, because it's still not exactly the cheapest thing that you can do to your home, but it is one of the smartest, most energy efficient things that you can do to your home. So there's a lot of different areas. There is still solar plumbing and solar thermal. You can use solar hot water for potable water for your home. You can use solar hot water for your swimming pool. So either whether you want to do copper lines or you want to do PVC lines, there's still solar thermal and solar plumbing jobs as well out there. So whether you're an electrician, a plumber, a roofer, a home builder, energy efficiency into solar is growing in the state of Florida, and job opportunities have been continued on the rise over the last 4 years.
Thank you. Thank you for that, all of that information. Just kind of a plug for solar energy. I don't know if you guys have heard, we have recently renovated an older school bus, and we have turned it into a career exploration lab that is mobile.
Oh, nice.
So our plan is to get it out to 5th grade students very soon. It's been a little delayed with everything going on, but that's our plan. And we did, the technician that redid all of the interior for us for the bus. We needed power, obviously, to power. We're going to have some VR headsets in there and some laptops running. And we used 4 solar panels that are placed on top of the bus. So
Very cool.
and there's a little
Very
tie
good.
in. Yeah.
Love to hear that.
One of the questions that I get from students is that they want to hear like a funny story or your best experience, or maybe even your worst, just something very interesting, some sort of interesting story or event that has happened to you over the course of your career. So Alan, let's start with you, not to put you on the spot, but do you have a story that you can share, something funny?
Well, I guess the probably most monumental things that we can remember is the hurricane restoration that we do. First hurricane that I worked as a lineman, it was back in 91 or 92, Hurricane Andrew. Everybody, you know, back in the day when they wanted to look at a hurricane, they looked at Camille that hit back in the 60s until Hurricane Andrew came along. And then they had that defined from a satellite image. So that was a pretty significant storm. Then, you know, over the past few years, we had Hurricane Charlie that was back in 2004, and most recently, Hurricane Irma. And Hurricane Irma, for example, we have 210,000 customers, and I would say we had probably 190,000 of them out after Hurricane Irma passed. And, you know, within 3 weeks of working, I mean, it's a team effort. And, you know, where we have 50 linemen at Lee County Co-op and 400 employees, we grew that to over 600 that came in and helped out with those activities, and the coordination across the organization with the sole focus of restoration. It's pretty amazing. You know, it takes a lot of work. There's a lot of logistical things that have to take place. But to see on, you know, a spin on a dime to change the focus of the entire organization with one intended goal. And then within 3 weeks to have everybody restored, it's pretty remarkable. I think that's when we are at our best as an organization when those types of events happen. So they're very noteworthy.
Definitely impressive to have that many people back up with power within that short amount of time. Let's go to Rick. Rick, do you have a story or some sort of memory that stands out throughout your career?
You know, one of my favorite things is, we obviously work great, and we rely on LCEC and other power companies for every home. But there are certain little places where there is no power at all. One is not far off Marco Island, called Keewaydin Island. And there are homes on Keewaydin Island, and there is just no way to connect electric at all. So for me, it's fun because this is, I get to go down and, you know, for my, you know, to imagine someone that has a 9,000 square foot home and figure out how you're going to put enough batteries there to power basically a mini hotel. And you have to take their beautiful yacht down there and see this home and their property and walk around and go, well, I guess money's no issue here. So let's figure out how we're going to power this. And tearing down trees that are on an island so we can put up 285 solar panels, and then figure out how we're going to wire 78 batteries that are going to be on this little mini mansion for these people so they can enjoy their family and that lifestyle, I guess, you know.
Wow, that's awesome. That's a really cool story. Let's go to Gary. Gary, what do you have? Some memory or funny story, something that stands out?
I can probably go back to talk to Rick's experience a little bit, we do have power on some outer islands here, and one of them's Upper Captiva. It's only accessible by boat. We have submarine cable that feeds it. I can remember as a lineman going to the island, and all the power there is underground. It's dug in 2 foot into the earth, and having to set up the work schedule with the tide system, because it's so low there that during high tide you couldn't dig a trench. You just dug a ditch full of water, and you couldn't work in it because it'd keep caving in. So you kind of planned your day on when you were going to dig. I remember we would work doing other things, cleaning up transformers, getting everything ready, gluing pipe together, and then the crew leader would yell, "Okay, it's low tide," and we'd grab shovels and go to digging as fast as we could, get as much of it in the ground and backfill it before it floated back out. So I didn't think it was very funny at the time. Now it's a lot more entertaining than it was at the time.
Yeah, I'm sure when you're there, it's not a funny story, but after the fact. What made you choose your career? What kind of pushed you in this direction? I know, Alan, you said that you had a friend whose father, but what about Rick and Gary? What kind of pushed you into this?
Go ahead, Gary.
I was looking for security of a large organization. I had a couple different offers at the same time. One of them was with the fire department, Norfolk Myers Fire Department, and the same time Lee County Co-op. I thought the chance for advancement would be a little better at Lee County Co-op, and that's why I picked this organization. Once I got in, didn't take long to see who made more money in the company, so I directed me that way. Ended up in line construction, and just kept moving from there.
Very good.
Yeah.
Good points.
I told you, I got into solar 12 years ago, and my daughter is 12 years old. So when my daughter was born, I decided I wanted to leave a legacy of impacting our earth. And so I decided that being more energy efficient and understanding the power of solar. So now as well, for every single solar system that I either design or install, my daughter and I also go out and plant a tree. So we do it, I do it more as an educational lesson to her about the impact that we have on our planet. And so that's mainly my reason for, obviously, I enjoy the education part of it. I enjoy the money that's in this industry, of course, and it's security for my family. And there is a bright future on the sunny side of solar. But mainly my biggest choice was, how am I going to leave a legacy for my daughter?
That's awesome. That's really awesome. Alan, did you want to add anything?
No, I think everybody touched on everything.
Awesome. Awesome. Gary, I like how you kind of touched on the fact that you didn't necessarily go into it in the beginning for the money. You went into it for the security of a larger corporation. And that's something, students, you want to keep in mind, that it's not always about those dollar bills. You got to figure out what's going to be secure. There are other things to look into as well. The hours, how much time you're going to be able to spend with your family, with your friends. Benefits are always a huge deal. What type of insurance do you have? Medical, dental, that type of stuff. So, and then once you find a place that's secure, like Gary said, you can look and see, okay, well, now that I'm here, where is the money? What direction do I need to move? So you don't always have to think of that to begin with, but that's something that you can focus on later on down the road. Do you work mostly indoors, outdoors? What's kind of your workspace look like? Is it very structured? Is it kind of open? So we'll start with Alan.
Yeah, now it is, I'm almost 100% indoors. As my career path, it was a time I was 100% outdoors. And, then you start making those transitions as you get additional responsibilities and you take on different roles, you tend to have less opportunities. We call it go to the field, than what you once had. So I would say, if as a field worker, if you're in the trades, it would be outside. You would have structured hours, and yet there's quite a bit of overtime depending on what discipline you would go into. Especially, if you went into line construction, they have a lot of overtime. And earning opportunities, and we do shift work. So our typical schedule 7 to 3:30. However, we got crews to work 3 to 11. We got crews to work, over to, midnight to 8 in the morning, depending upon whatever the needs are for the business. Because, in the winter time, we have less trouble. In the summertime, you see the storms that come in the afternoon. Those storms, while they're beautiful to watch from a distance, they also create a lot of power outages because of the lightning and the wind and everything that's associated with them. So, it depends on what role. If you went into a design role, they're probably 80% in the office, 20% in the field. Same way with the engineering, they're probably 60, 80% in the office, 20% in the field. So there's a lot of variation depending on the career path that you choose.
Thank you. Gary, what about you?
Pretty much the same as what Alan was talking about. Now I'm kind of holed away in an office about 99% of the time. The people that work with me, the operators, are in the office 100% of the time. They work 12-hour shifts every day. The dispatch center is never closed. It's always in operation. They work holidays. They work through the storms. They work through everything. One thing Alan didn't say, while those storms are beautiful to watch, they generate a lot of overtime. And if you pick the industry of a field worker, which would be a lineman or a substation electrician, it's possible that you're working until everybody's power's back on too. So it's not a 2-hour overtime, I'm done job. You really got to commit to something like that type of position. Typically, the office work consumes the majority of the day in the position I'm in now. I still am able to get out and look around in the substations at stuff that's going on, be able to update maps and let the guys know the work that's going on in the field. And I'll hold on to that as long as I can because I enjoy being outside. But you also reap the benefits of not being that guy that's in that storm working all night long. I get to stay home and sleep a little more now than I used to in the past.
Right. There's a little bit of a trade-off there. Yes,
Yep,
definitely. Rick, what about you?
I like to get out as much as possible. So, I do sell solar systems in Texas and in the Carolinas and California. So I don't get to go visit those job sites, but anytime that I have a chance to go see a job site or do a site survey, I love going out. And it used to be 5 years ago, I'd have to climb up on a ladder and check roofs and everything like that. Now I just take my drone and I stand out in the field or I stand in the driveway and I just play with my drone. And so it's either way, I enjoy being outside, but then the work starts, once you got the pictures, once you understand the site and you've done your site survey, you got to go back to the computer. You got to lay out the design. You have to talk to the purchasing department. You have to talk to the engineers. You have to get everything done. And that's a lot of computer work. So, there is some outdoor work. Obviously, we're working in the sun. And if you're going to be an installer, you're outdoors all day. You're going to load your truck and you're going to be on a roof, or you're going to even be inside of attics. You're going to be in a garage mounting the inverters for residential or even commercial install. So you do spend a lot of time if you're going to get into solar installation outdoors. Our guys all have UV coated long sleeve shirts. They wear sunscreen every day, but they're outdoors a lot in that sun. Me as a designer, site supervisor, sales manager, I try to be out as much as I possibly can, but there is a lot that needs to be done on the computer.
Well, thank you for that information from all three of you. Rick, you touched on drones, and that just made me think of new technology. How has technology changed over the years? You all have lots of background in this field. Rick, 12 years, Alan and Gary, you've been in it for multiple years. What's changed over the years?
I think one of the coolest things that's out right now, everybody has a breaker panel in their house, and that's how they're controlling the loads that are coming in from the power companies, right? But when a breaker flips, you always have to go to the garage, take your flashlight and figure out which breaker it is and flip the breaker. Now, through their smart breaker technology, the whole sub panel looks like an Apple computer, and it all programs on your cell phone, and you can literally schedule anything that you want to be on. And because my daughter, she leaves every morning when we leave for school, she leaves all of her lights on in her bedroom. Well, now I schedule all of that, everything that's on that breaker to shut off at 8 a.m. Right? And then it kicks back on at 3 p.m. But everything on my breaker panel, I know exactly how much electricity it's consuming. I know exactly how much my solar system is producing to offset the amount of electricity that I'm consuming. And I know how much my batteries have stored in it, so that if the power were to go down, do I have enough energy to make it till the sun comes back and it starts charging them again? So smart breaker control systems are probably the coolest thing that I think is come out. Obviously, you can monitor with what's called circuit transmitters, and they used to just be clips that go onto the wiring. Now they have it all to where it's all done almost like an Apple computer, and all your breakers are on smart control and all scheduled and monitoring consumption and production. So I think that's probably one of the most exciting things that I've seen for energy management.
Super cool. Super neat what technology can give us. Alan, Gary, what about for you guys with LCEC? Any cool toys, technology, anything new?
Well, I'll go first and I'll talk about the actual system. I mean, there's always new products that are coming out. There's new tools. There's, I mean, in the day we had insulators who were made out of porcelain that weighed 50 pounds and now they weigh 5. So these are the type of improvements that we've seen from a infrastructure perspective. In the electric industry, though, it's pretty interesting because the delivery point, if you take away all the new, equipment and things that manage those assets, but the delivery of it really hasn't changed much. And if you look at, I would say the two biggest technology improvements that happen in our industry that actually cause productivity gains, which are good for the organization or for the customers. The first one is the invention of the bucket truck, and that took place in like 1969. So they took a crew that, used to have an 8-man, 10-man, what they called a bull crew, and they would have to go out and facilitate all this work by hand. They developed the technology that went along with it, which was the bucket truck, and now to be able to glove so they can hold on to it instead of using sticks. So it increased productivity immensely. And the other one would be probably bare hand. And bare hand is relatively new. I would say 1980. And when I say new, most people would say 1980, that's ancient history. But, for history, it's pretty new. And what that allowed them to do was prior to that, at the transmission level, where you're talking about 138,000 volts, 230,000 volts, 500,000 volts, they used to have to manage all that with sticks, and it took a lot of manual labor to do that. Now they go up and they're able to energize themselves to the same voltage that they're working on. So they'll go up in this truck and they literally clip onto it, and they themselves are 138,000 volts, which is kind of cool if you think about it. But it allows them to put their hands on it, and it has increased productivity. It also has eliminated the needs for system outages on the transmission lines. So those are probably the three biggest, in technological changes that have taken place that have really impacted our industry for positive reasons. Gary?
I'd like to add the Scada system that's been developed, which is it's a data control and data acquisition system, meaning that we're able to monitor the complete system, open and close points at a real-time status. Whenever the beautiful thunderstorms are going on, we're actually seeing red stuff turn green, meaning it's open. It gives us an idea of where the fault is. We don't actually use it to run trouble on. We still use customer calls to back up the information that we're gaining. However, we can start heading people that way. We know what we got. The use of automated equipment in the field, we have switches on the lines so that when we do do figure out exactly where the fault is, we can isolate that section of line. We can re-energize it from the other end. We can keep narrowing that section of power that's out, keep narrowing it down and narrowing it down to get as many customers back on as fast as we can. That's kind of exciting to watch happen in this industry. As long as I have been, there's been Scada there the whole time, but it didn't mean as much until I got into the position I'm in now, where I actually see it happen and I see what they're doing. It's really neat. And AMR, automated meter reading. Like I said, when I hired on, my day started at 7 o'clock in the morning. I jumped in a little Ford Ranger pickup truck. I drove over into North Fort Myers somewhere and parked that truck and grabbed a handheld computer. I started walking. About 2 o'clock that afternoon, I get back to the truck and I had read a meter route that day. And every day I walked for 6, 7, 8 hours and read meters. Now we do it with nobody ever leaving the office. It's all done over the power lines. We send out a signal, tell the meter to report back your usage. It reports back, and it's all figured on the mainframe computer here at the co-op. So we have nobody that reads meters on a constant basis. Every once in a while, somebody have to go out and check if we get a crazy reading or something like that. But for the most part, that position's not here anymore. We don't have meter readers in the field anymore.
Wow.
And that's pretty interesting.
Yeah, that's a big change to your workforce, definitely. Awesome. Well, thank you for all of that. Very quickly, Alan and Gary, does LCEC use drones as well? I know Rick kind of talked about how solar uses drones. Do you guys use drones?
We have used drones on occasion. It was pretty interesting because it was just a couple of years ago. We were going out to do an inspection on a transmission line. And one of the things that we found out, there was kind of a flaw in the drone technology, because drones tend to look straight ahead or they look down. And we needed the capability to look up, and it wasn't there. So since that time, I understand that they have worked on some of that. And they've got some cameras now that actually will pivot and look up. And the reason for that is our bells hang down and we have to look inside of them. So it was pretty interesting, but I like I say, I think they made some improvements on that. We do use them on a limited basis for some of the inspections that we do. But we really haven't incorporated them on a daily basis with our activities.
I just ask, I know that's something that a lot of our students are super interested in, so thought I'd tie that in a little bit. What type of personality traits do you think would work well in your career field? So let's start with Rick.
First of all, dedication to your craft. I mean, you know, too many people, I think, get into things and they think they're a job. This is a career. You have to understand there's going to be continued advancement. There's always going to be changes. There's always going to be the latest and greatest thing. There's always going to be the next challenge. And if you're not committed to your craft, then chances are you're going to be sleeping on the job, is what I like to call. And you'll get bypassed by, you know, other people that are paying attention and committed to their craft and learning the next thing are going to be the ones that get the raise. And they're going to be the ones that get the next, you know, level up. So understand that if you choose to get into whatever career you're looking to get into, go all in, be committed to it, do your homework, look around at what's going on in the whole industry, look outside of even your company about what's happening in the industry that you're choosing to get into, and be dedicated to development, personal development inside that industry. I think that's probably one of the most important things that you can do. Whether you're going to be a roofer, whether you're going to be in solar, whether you're going to be an electrician, understand that there's always something to learn. There's always ways to advance. But if you're taking it as a job and you think that you're going to learn one thing and do that one thing, you're going to be stuck at that one level. If you take it as a career and understand that there's constant education and advancement through an industry that will always be growing, you'll constantly be growing and moving up with it.
Very good information. Thank you for that. Alan and Gary, what type of personality type or what type of advice would you give to students right now?
Gary, over first.
Yeah, I'll go. I'll build on what Rick said, because that great suggestion, Rick. Great guidance. You can wrap that up and throw it in here at LCEC for sure. Also, being self-motivated and a self-starter. Not always looking for somebody to beat you with a stick to get you moving. And matter of fact, whether you believe it or not, your boss doesn't always want to beat you with a stick to get you moving. We want a whole group of guys that if we take too long to get out to talk to you, we missed you because you've already went to work. You're up and at 'em and ready to go. If you stay motivated and you're ready to go to work at all times, you'll go far in whatever career you decide to place yourself into.
Sure.
Yeah, and the only thing that I would add, Rick, very well spoken with the advice that you gave. I would say, a couple additional thoughts would be that, when you're in these types of industries and you have the utility industry and, solar is kind of up and coming, but it's more than a career. It's actually a service to the community. So, you've got to view it that way, that you are here, you're getting paid, you're getting compensated. We have a lot of very nice benefits, but the reality is too, we get all that because of the service that we are producing for the community. And so there's expectations that are placed upon employees in these types of industries that probably other careers don't have those same expectations. And, one philosophy that I've always had is I've always said, and really it doesn't matter whether it's your job, your career, or your marriage or your life, you should give more than you take. And if you do that, then you'll be successful. So I would absolutely encourage that.
Thank you all. Very, very good advice across the board. Couple last questions and then we'll wrap it up. What workforce gaps are you trying to fill within your industry right now? So do you see any gaps? What do you see coming down the road that our high schoolers could maybe plug themselves into to fill in some of those gaps? Let's start with Gary.
Field techs is where we're lacking, I think. People that want to go out and work, people that are doing what we're doing. I'm glad to see that I get to share the program today with two other people that's been successful with high school educations. A lot of times college is the first thought. There's still people out there, still positions out there, I should say, that need to be filled by people that want to work with their hands. And they're very rewarding fields of labor. So I'd say, yeah, we're definitely seeing the push to need more linemen, more substation electrician, more field workers.
Alan?
Yeah, in addition to that, I'll tell you where the entire country's got a huge gap from an educational perspective. There's, we have a lot of people to go to college, but the engineering disciplines are really lacking with Americans. And, whether it's electrical engineering, mechanical engineering, chemical engineering, there is an absolute need. They are very difficult degrees to obtain, but they are extremely rewarding for people. I'll tell you, some of the people that I work with, they've got borderline genius IQs, with what they can actually do. So it is pretty amazing. Where I agree, with Gary, there's a need for technicians and people that can definitely work with their hands, that are intelligent and motivated. And then there's also, a need from an engineering perspective, because they're the ones that design things that the field people do. So it's a balance and needs on both sides of the equation.
So students, you can fill in these gaps either with a high school diploma, but also with a higher education degree. So very good to know. And then Rick, what about in your field in solar?
I would say, again, because I deal with roofers, electricians, plumbers, right? And solar installers, of course. But one of the biggest things I think that is always lacking on all the teams that I've seen, because I deal with all these different types of organizations and I do consulting for businesses, they're always missing the troubleshooter. The guy that, you know, they got the guys that put it all together. They got the guys that plumbed it all in. They got the guys that wired all the electric. But as soon as something goes wrong, they don't have the guy that can go out and just troubleshoot and figure it out. So that, you know, be the troubleshooter. Be the troubleshooter. You know, that almost every manual that I've ever seen has trouble assistance, phone lines. They have troubleshooting, like, you know, it's always at the back of the manual, troubleshooting. Nobody reads that far, right? Be the troubleshooter. You know, I just don't think that there's enough people that are out there that go, all right, what's the problem? Let me figure it out. I think, you know, if you just put on your troubleshooting hat, you'll realize that there aren't many people. There would be the people that said, well, I did it how they told me to do it, and it's done. I don't know what's wrong with it. Send the troubleshooter in. So I think I think that that's always going to be something good. If you can always remind yourself that you know, there's more to it than just putting it together. Troubleshooting it and understanding what went wrong if something goes wrong, and fixing it is half the battle there too. And then another thing, I think that now more than ever, because you know, in the industry that I'm in, we have a lot of seasoned veterans that have been messing with the electric and doing the roofing and up on ladders and doing all this stuff, but they're not the best actually with the actual communication, because you got to monitor all these systems. So, you know, and I borrow this from Best Buy, but at some point the organization needs the geek squad too. And so that, you know, the geek squad that wires it to the actual internet and make sure that it's communicating back to the computer for data transfer, and making sure that it's actually the router is far. If the router's too far away from where the actual connection point is, how are you going to get the antenna to extend the router communication so that it communicates back to the monitoring source of the company? So there's, you know, in there is a little bit of the geek squad that I think is coming in almost every industry. I see it in the solar industry. I see it in the energy storage industry. I see it in the electrical industry, that everybody wants to be able to play with what they have now on this thing. And somehow there still needs to be the geek squad. The troubleshooters and the geek squads always seem to be not enough of those.
Yeah, and just to add on to what Rick was saying, I mean, if you were the kind of kid that tore apart the toaster oven and you couldn't quite get it back together and mom got on you, I mean, it's that level of curiosity, you'll make a perfect troubleshooter.
Right.
That's what it is you're like, you look at it, you go, I wonder how that works. You know, so it is curiosity. Curiosity does help spice up the job, no doubt about it.
Yeah.
Sometimes you learn from those failures, not being able to put it back together. You have to figure it out. So yes. Well, we will start to wrap up. I'm going to have one more question for each of you, but before we do that, thank you all so much for volunteering for an hour to share your experience and your lessons and what you've learned throughout your career with all of our students. If you could go back to your 16, 17, 18-year-old self, what advice would you give yourself? So we will start with Alan.
Oh, that's a scary one.
Well, I'll say this. I probably wouldn't have changed much. I would change this, though. I would have, instead of having all the fun after graduating high school for a few years, I would have gone to college while working as well, and taken that dual path, because the education background can only enhance what you can learn from the technical perspective. So if you have that opportunity, you know, while I was plugging the engineering side of things, if on the technical side of stuff, if you can get a, you know, even an AA and from a business degree perspective, it'll only help you, because if you decide to move on to into management, it helps you manage budgets, manage people, manage all the things that you have to do to be successful. And you'll have heads up above many others because you'll have the technical knowledge that they won't have. So I would encourage people to do that.
Very good advice. And that could be across the board. You know, you could use that in any career field. Gary.
I too, like Alan, probably would buckle down a little harder in my schoolwork and pay attention to that opportunity to throw that 2-year degree under my belt, possibly 4-year degree. Who knows? If I was paying attention, I might have liked school more and I might have stayed in for a 4-year degree. while it's not necessary to do the position I'm doing today, it can't hurt. The knowledge that you gain through college about learning to solve problems can help you in day-to-day life, if nothing else. So don't take what I said earlier as a diss to go into college, but don't let that limit you either.
And there's enough opportunity out there and financial aid resources that students can be able to go to a school for very cheap, if not free. I mean, some students that qualify for their FAFSA, the federal student aid, can go to a state college completely free. It could cover all of their costs, definitely to at least get the AA business degree at the very least. So thank you for that. Rick, what about you? What would you go back and tell your teenage self?
I would just go back and always remind myself of the things that apply now. And number one, the first and foremost thing I think is let go of your ego. It ain't all about you. When you get into a company, when you get into an industry, when you get into just even a small family-owned company, it's an organization. It's a team. And if you can show that you're an actual team player and you play for the team and not for yourself, you'll advance and you'll help grow things in your industry, in the company, in everything and everyone around you. So don't make it all about yourself. Make it about becoming a leader, and true leaders build a team. They don't build themselves.
Very, very good advice. Well, any last thoughts? Does anyone want to throw anything out there? Everyone.
Thank you for the opportunity. Enjoyed it very much.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you three for joining us. This will be recorded. It will be uploaded on our YouTube channel, and I'm sure teachers will take advantage of it. So you all were great. Thank you so much for taking your time with us today, and happy holidays.
Happy holidays.
Same here. Thank you, Kelly. Rick, it was nice meeting you.
Day.
Nice to meet you guys. Have a great day.
All right, you too. Bye-bye.